subscribe.
There's something about the Doors' music and Jim Morrison, obviously, that I think represents to younger people and each new generation coming up. I think the Doors represent a sense of freedom.
When a young person enters a psychiatric unit for the first time, the world can suddenly become very strange. New faces, new rules, new rooms, new routines, and perhaps, most unsettling of all, not knowing what happens next. For some of the tween and teen patients I've worked with, entering a psychiatric unit can feel like crossing into a completely unfamiliar world. The old world is suddenly behind them, and whatever comes next feels uncertain. Which is one of the reasons I've always found the Doors' Strange Days so psychologically fascinating, because the song begins with a feeling many young people already understand. Something has changed, and now strange days are ahead.
Strange days have found us. Strange days have tracked us down.
The song doesn't say that we went looking for strange days. It says they found us. That's an important distinction. Sometimes change isn't something we choose. A crisis happens. A family situation changes, something becomes too overwhelming, and suddenly a young person finds themselves in a place they've never expected to be. A psychiatric unit can feel like that. You don't necessarily know the people. You don't know the routines. You don't know what you're supposed to say, and you may not even know what you're supposed to feel. The strange days have found you.
They're going to destroy
For a young person, strangeness can be powerful. The environment may be designed to provide safety, but psychologically, it can still feel strange. There is a loss of the ordinary. Your bedroom isn't there. Your usual routines aren't there. Your familiar social world may suddenly feel very far away. And when you're already struggling emotionally, that unfamiliarity can become overwhelming. But something interesting can happen once the initial shock begins to settle. The strange environment can become a place of exploration. And that's where creative arts therapy can enter. In creative arts therapy, I don't want every strange thought, every unusual image, or every uncomfortable emotion to immediately become something that has to be corrected. Instead, I want to know what it looks like. What does it sound like? What color is it? What would it become if you turned it into a song, a drawing, a poem, a movement, a character, a story? The arts give my patients another language, and sometimes that language is strange. That's okay. In fact, sometimes strangeness is exactly where the interesting material lives.
Strange eyes fill strange rooms. Voices will signal their tired end.
There's something almost perfectly adolescent about this image. Walking into a room and seeing strange faces looking back at you, wondering what they're thinking. Wondering whether they're judging you, wondering whether you belong. Adolescence is already a period of identity experimentation. Who am I? Who are these other people? Where do I fit? What parts of myself am I allowed to show? A psychiatric unit can intensify those questions, but the arts can create a different kind of room, a room where the strange parts of ourselves can actually appear.
Up to his rooms on the second floor, where he began to play the piano madly and sing madly, like...
And perhaps this is one reason some of the young people I've worked with have been drawn to the Doors, and particularly to Jim Morrison. Morrison was strange. Not strange in the sense of simply being eccentric. His artistic persona embraced mystery, darkness, surreal imagery, sexuality, death, dreams, transformation. He didn't always make himself easy to understand, and that's part of the attraction. For an adolescent who may already feel misunderstood, an artist who refuses to make himself completely understandable can feel strangely liberating. Morrison seemed willing to enter places that polite conversation often avoids, and sometimes young people recognize that immediately. Morrison's lyrics frequently occupy uncomfortable territory, but that's precisely where art can become useful. Art doesn't always have to tell us, this is the correct way to feel. Sometimes it allows us to approach the things that are difficult to say directly. Fear, anger, sexuality, shame, death, confusion, identity. The things that don't fit neatly into a conversation. Creative expression can give those experiences a form. And once something has a form, we can begin to look at it. I keep coming back to this line. Because adolescence itself can feel like living inside a body that is changing faster than your understanding of it. And emotional distress can make that confusion even more intense. The body can feel restless, overwhelmed, disconnected, too full of energy, or completely empty. Sometimes my tween and teen patients can't explain what is happening psychologically, but they can draw it, they can make music, they can move, they can write, they can create something that communicates what ordinary language can. That is one of the reasons I value the arts therapeutically. And then Morrison gives us another strange phrase. Memory is complicated, especially when you're young. We are still constructing the story of who we are. What happened to me? What does it mean? Who am I because of it? And sometimes the memories we carry become part of the identities we construct around ourselves. The arts can provide another way of approaching those memories, not necessarily by forcing them into a neat explanation, but by allowing them to be expressed. A memory can become an image, a sound, a character, a color, a piece of music, and sometimes that distance makes it possible to approach something that would otherwise feel impossible to talk about. Maybe the goal isn't to make the strange disappear. Maybe the goal is to discover what the strange is trying to communicate. A young person may enter the unit feeling like, I don't belong here. But in creative arts therapy, they can discover another possibility. I can make something here. I can make a sound. I can create an image. I can write something bizarre. I can experiment. I can be angry. I can be funny. I can be surreal. I can make something nobody else understands yet, and someone can still sit with me while I do it. That can be a very different experience of being seen. This is why Strange Days continues to interest me. It isn't simply a song about a strange decade. It captures a psychological experience, the experience of entering unfamiliar territory, of feeling disconnected, of not knowing what comes next, and of encouraging parts of yourself that don't fit easily into ordinary language. And perhaps that's why Jim Morrison continues to resonate with some of my tween and teen patients. He didn't seem particularly interested in making himself normal. He made art from the strange. He made art from uncertainty. He made art from the places where ordinary explanations begin to break down. When a young person enters a psychiatric unit, the strange days may indeed be ahead. But strange doesn't always have to mean dangerous. It doesn't always have to mean broken. Sometimes strange simply means unfamiliar. And sometimes the unfamiliar becomes a place where something new can be created. That's what I hope creative arts therapy can offer. Not a demand to immediately explain everything. Not a demand to make every feeling normal. But a space where my tween and teen patients can explore, experiment, and sometimes just be strange. Because the arts have always made room for the part of us that don't know how to behave. And perhaps that's one reason the doors still matter. Jim Morrison understood something that artists have understood for centuries. Sometimes the strange thing isn't something we need to escape. Sometimes it's the beginning of the art. Maybe we don't create art to escape the strange. Maybe we create art to discover what it means. Leave any thoughts in the comment section below, and please subscribe to this channel. Thank you. Hello, this is Enrico, licensed creative arts therapist, New York State.